On October 21st, IBJ unveils the 2025 Women of Influence. Join us to celebrate Indy's most inspiring leaders and hear the powerful stories behind their success. Don't miss this moment. Register now at ibj.com/influence 2025.
Your call may be monitored and recorded for quality control purposes.
We've all been on that end of the line.
Hi, I've been trying to get a hold of someone.
I've called a few
trouble
times.
understanding.
I just got my prescription
on my
through,
medication.
and
Real voices of people that are suffering.
But how do we make sense of those conversations? It's really hard.
These conversations are like the canary in a coal mine. We've never had a way to access them before now.
Now, Indianapolis-based startup Authenticx is making sure your recordings don't get lost in the shuffle. Join us for a conversation with Amy Brown, the founder of Authenticx, to learn more about how her AI company's innovation is giving you a voice in the world of healthcare. On this edition of the Business and Beyond podcast, presented by PNC. And I'm pleased to be joined on the podcast this week by a great Indiana entrepreneur, Amy Brown, the founder of Authenticx, an Indianapolis-based tech company doing some great things in the healthcare space. Amy, how are you?
I am great, Gary. So good to be here.
Great. Yeah, great to have you here. And I can remember having you on the show. You've been on the show, the TV show, a few times. And I think the first time was probably not long after you launched in 2018. It's been a great ride, and we want to talk about that a little bit more in depth. But give folks who may not be exposed to Authenticx what the company is all about, because AI is the rage now, and you're really leveraging AI to do some great things with the company. What's it all about?
Yeah, thank you. We actually started building AI 8 years ago when the company was founded. We had no idea then that, fast forward several years, AI would be all the rage. And so we feel like we're in a much more crowded territory than we were when we started. But Authenticx is a conversational AI company. And what we do is we ingest customer conversations between patients, health insurance members, and the company that they're working with. So, Gary, if you ever call your health insurance company or your pharmacy, or you call your doctor's office, if you ever hear a message that call is being recorded for quality and monitoring purposes, we all have probably heard that message. Those recordings are what Authenticx ingests. And to put a sense of the scale of that, last year we ingested 300 million customer conversations between patients and their healthcare company. And we use that data and have designed AI ears, if you will, to listen for signals that are super important for the healthcare business to understand for that customer journey.
Fascinating. So when you launched the company, you came up with this idea and to utilize AI, artificial intelligence. What was AI like back then? I mean, 8 years ago? Folks know a lot more about it now. What was it like 8 years ago?
Yes, I mean, years ago, it was really, the AI in the mainstream was really about, at least in our world, word search and find. If you have a sea of conversations, you could type in the word frustrated, and you could go find that word using kind of old school natural language processing is what it was called. Today, AI is so much more sophisticated because it can infer human intentions because it's been trained to do that. And that's a big part of our success story is we hired in-state our own employees that were social workers, nurses, counselors, to help train our AI models so they could listen to these conversations, start to create tags and labels and categories for these signals we wanted to find. And that became the basis of our AI. And so our AI today is machine learning models, Gen AI models that are looking for intent, and they can understand the spoken word and what humans intend when they're talking about whatever they might be talking about in their customer journey.
Wow. So you actually hired people to quote unquote train AI.
100%. We knew early on that if we wanted to have a healthcare specific solution and we wanted to leverage AI, we prioritized quality over speed. And so we wanted to be able to go to the healthcare industry, pharma, insurers, providers, and say, look, you're going to get a much more accurate AI solution with Authenticx because we have done the hard work of training using actual healthcare professionals and people in the space to train those models.
So, and when you talk about the healthcare ecosystem, I guess, so you're dealing with what, insurers, pharmacies? Who all do you deal? Who are your customers?
Yes. So about 75% of our revenue and our customers are actually in the pharmaceutical manufacturing space. We are in 9 of the top 10 global pharmaceutical manufacturers. In addition to that, we have health insurers, particularly those health insurers that offer Medicare Advantage plans. And then we also serve health and hospital systems. So think about multi-site, very large health and hospital systems that have some sort of centralized communication system with patients.
So you saw a gap, I assume, some pain, if you will, from some of these customers and their connection with customers. Is that an accurate description?
Yes. Before I started Authenticx, I was working in the business of healthcare. And the gap that I saw was that all of these recordings of customer conversations were sitting on a server and we were doing nothing with them. And inside those conversations are the guts of what businesses need to know to keep their customers happy, to keep them loyal to the brand, the therapy, the system. And yet they weren't hearing those voices. And we needed a solution to listen at scale that allowed the C-suite and everybody else to really appreciate that data source in a way that had never been done before.
When you talk about listening, certainly investors and others have been listening to the Authenticx story. You were the only female entrepreneur, female founded company in the Midwest to close a Series B round during what was a challenging environment in the first quarter of 2023. And since that time, you've seen some great growth, right? 2.5 times growth since 2023.
Yeah. Yes, Gary, 2.5 times growth since January of 2023. We're really proud of that. And we've had great support from local venture capital firms as well as some that are in the region. And that capital has been put to really good use.
What's the competitive landscape like? I think when you launched, probably not a lot of folks in the space. What does it look like now?
It's much noisier, and I really have empathy for the market, meaning, the companies that are needing to scale using AI. They must feel overwhelmed with the amount of solutions that are out there. What we've learned the hard way is that when you are wanting to deploy an AI solution, you want to look for companies that are very intentional about how they train their data, and going industry specific is our great differentiator. There are lots of companies out there that serve multiple industries and offer some sort of ChatGPT or AI solution. The problem with that is that ChatGPT is trained on the internet. It's not trained on that company or that industry specific data. So that's the differentiator for Authenticx. And that's the way we've been being able to compete against much bigger names out there.
Yeah. Being located in Indianapolis, in Indiana, we've got Salesforce, Elevance, Lilly, Roche, 3 big healthcare systems in Indianapolis. So I know you describe it as fertile ground for that intersection of AI and healthcare. That's opportunity for you. Is it opportunity for Indiana too?
100%. I am a Hoosier at heart. I was raised here, went to Indiana University, and have grown my business and my family here. We should be so proud of the fertile ground we have between healthcare, biocrossroads, pharma, payers, providers, and tech. And, in a world where AI is all the rage, we really should be claiming our expertise that we are developing on the front lines here in Indiana. And we should be planting our flag and claiming that we are the intersection of healthcare and AI.
Yeah, I think you would say it's been a good thing growing your company in Indiana.
It has been a wonderful thing, Gary. I cannot say enough about the ecosystem in Indiana, the support, the financial support, but also the mentorship. I've heard this time and again. One of the best values about growing a business in Indiana is the generosity and access that other entrepreneurs and companies give you. And that has meant the world to me and Authenticx.
Yeah. As you look at artificial intelligence, as you say, it's all the rage now. What's your take as who's someone who is very close to it? A lot of positives with AI. There are some negatives as well. It's in the conversation. On balance, what's your take on artificial intelligence? And do you think there needs to be at some point guardrails or things put in place to help with the impact of AI going forward?
Absolutely. So one of the things that I am most worried about from an AI perspective is that we're almost letting the tail wag the dog. There's a lot of energy, there's a lot of enthusiasm and momentum, and certainly a lot of money going towards the development and deployment of AI. But that is only going to be successful if the humans who are here as a workforce understand it, embrace it, adopt it. And there's still a lot of fear. And one of the things that business leaders can do and need to do is while they are developing their AI strategy, they have to simultaneously be designing their human strategy. What do they want their human workforce to look like post AI deployment? How do they want their humans to use that technology? And what things do they want to preserve in their business model that are uniquely human? If they can take and define those things, then they're going to have a much greater success of actually deploying AI in a way that will drive an ROI.
You founded Authenticx in, I would say, a space that can be tough to break into in 2018, healthcare and AI. What really inspired you? You were in the business, in the industry, but what inspired you to launch Authenticx?
Well, I think as an entrepreneur, you have to have something deep inside of you, this deep conviction that you see the problem, you have a solution, and the market timing is right. It just happened to be that in 2018, I felt like the stars had aligned. I saw the problem. I had thought of an opportunity to solve that problem, and I could read the market in a way that felt like the timing was right. All of those things have to work together. I can tell you, though, the only thing that has kept me going is my conviction that we're doing the right thing. If you don't have conviction, it's just too hard to keep going because it has been a really challenging journey, but also the most worthy one I've ever been on.
Every entrepreneur, every founder faces challenges. What, as you think back when you were launching the company, coming up with the idea, what were the biggest challenges you faced, and including as a female founder?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I had never started a tech company before. I do not have a technology background. I have a business background and an education and social work. So when I started the business, I was not only trying to launch a product, but I was also trying to understand the landscape of building tech and raising capital. I had never raised venture capital before. So I had to learn all of that from scratch. And thankfully, I had a lot of mentors and people who are willing to take me under their wing and teach me some things. And then that conviction is just, you have to be relentless. You know, it is a 24/7 commitment. Your family has to be all in with you and believing in the dream. And that's what it's taken.
You mentioned the importance of mentors, and I think that's one of the many things from a positive standpoint that Indiana offers is a really giving, if you will, community of successful entrepreneurs who are willing to share their story and share their experiences with others. How important was that mentoring piece to you?
It was so crucial because there are some really dark times when you're an entrepreneur where you don't know what direction to go. You don't know if you can get back up off the floor after being knocked down one more time. And sometimes you feel very isolated and lonely. And it's those mentors who are willing to put their arm around you and first of all, affirm that they were once there too. And to say, look, we believe in you. This is a good idea. Keep going. And those mentors also not only are thought partners, but oftentimes they've opened doors for you, made new connections. And that really has meant all the world.
As you look, and you've mentioned how happy you are to be growing a company here in Indiana. What's, in your view, what's missing? Is there something missing here in Indiana that is needed to kind of take things to that proverbial next level?
Yeah, I think that Indiana has done an exceptional job building a community for the early stage startups. You look at TechPoint and some of the other incubators and nonprofits that are wrapping their arms around early stage startups. But Indiana needs to expect success from itself. And we need to also have a system and an ecosystem for companies at Authenticx stage, post Series B, where there's capital opportunities in Indiana for Series B stage and above, but also an ecosystem to see those companies go from early stage startup to a massive $1 billion company. And I think we can do better in Indiana for that stage and above.
How about talent? Obviously, you hire talent. You need talent to fuel your company. How would you, great colleges and universities here, how would you assess the talent pipeline?
Yeah. I would say that from Purdue, we're seeing tremendous talent coming from their software engineering. We are always looking at AI engineers, and we've gotten some really fantastic talent there. We've surprisingly not had to go outside of Indiana in a significant way for our engineering talent. From Indiana University, they have an incredible linguistics program and specifically computational linguistics, which is key in conversational AI. I would love to see more intentionality from our universities for connecting with local tech startups, but we definitely see the investment that the universities are making in getting these students prepared for an AI era.
You mentioned connecting IU and Purdue in particular with the business community. What's your take on the split at IUPUI and having a separate Indiana University, a separate Purdue University in Indianapolis? Because I know part of the selling point for that thing is actually connecting with the business community. Do you see that as something that's going to happen?
I see that as certainly a potential, and I'm really excited about it. It also sets up more competition in Indiana between those two schools, which I think is a healthy thing for our ecosystem.
Much more ahead with Amy Brown, the founder at Authenticx. When we return on the Business and Beyond podcast, we're presented by PNC. Stay with us.
At PNC Bank, we're committed to making a difference in the lives of our customers and communities by helping them move forward financially. As a Main Street bank, we try to do right by our customers with every encounter. Our local teams offer personalized financial advice to help guide you in making the best decision. We're proud to be part of your community. PNC Bank. See how we can make a difference for you at pnc.com. Copyright 2022, the PNC Financial Services Group, Inc., all rights reserved.
We build Indiana. The Laborers International Union of North America builds and maintains roads, bridges, and other essential infrastructure that make us the crossroads of America. So thanks to LIUNA members' work, Hoosiers have a better quality of life, like access to utilities, easier routes to jobs, schools, or medical care, and deliveries keep moving. We build Indiana for good jobs and stronger communities. The Laborers International Union of North America. We are LIUNA.
And welcome back to the Business and Beyond podcast presented by PNC. My guest this week is a great Hoosier entrepreneur, a tech founder, a tech leader in Indiana, the founder of Authenticx, Amy Brown. And Amy, as we were talking in the break, you mentioned something that kind of hit home with me. You said you're really proud of what Indiana as a state, the tech community is doing, and it's something that needs to be maybe amplified to a greater extent.
Yes, I mean, Indiana is this like hidden jewel, it feels like sometimes. We have a tremendous industry from the healthcare perspective, but we also have Salesforce and biotech. And we are in an economy where the capital market is really valuing well-run, efficient companies. Well, our Hoosier roots and our Hoosier values are such that we know how to build capital efficient companies. We are financial stewards by nature. It's in our DNA, but we're also innovative as hell. And so we should be claiming ourselves as a tech ecosystem. And I think more and more the coasts are starting to embrace the Midwest.
I was going to ask you about that. Do you think that is really happening? I see it or hear about it, in some other areas that increasingly they're looking away from those once popular areas and looking at places like Indiana, the so-called flyover states.
I completely see it. And a big reason for that is what I just mentioned on capital efficiency. On the coasts, raising extremely high multiples and, companies that burn cash and the cost of living and et cetera is just so high. That was working in 2020 and 2021. But then the bubble burst and those valuations were inflated. Meanwhile, in the Midwest, we have companies that, that know how to run a business that is, high financial stewardship. And we know how to spend money in a more effective way. And I'm seeing coastal VCs coming inward because of that value, and the way the market values businesses today is very different than it was in 2020.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about you, Amy, your background. Where did you grow up?
I grew up on the north side of Indianapolis, went to North Central High School. My mom was a special ed teacher, and my dad still is a cardiothoracic pediatric surgeon, heart surgeon at Riley.
Okay, good. Well, your upbringing, I think, makes a natural transition to what you're doing now. What was growing up like on the north side of Indianapolis?
My parents instilled in me and my brothers very early on a very natural work ethic. You work hard. And then I got a lot of exposure to the healthcare world through my dad. When I was in 8th grade, he woke me up in the middle of the night and asked if I wanted to go with him on a heart transplant. And that really changed my life. I knew pretty soon after that I wasn't going to follow in his footsteps directly, but I saw the power of patient care and I wanted to get involved with that. And it was a really important seed that was planted in me, and then continued to be nurtured as I went on to Indiana University and got my master's degree and landed in government, worked for 2 governors, and that journey has just continued to be nurtured and got me really to where the idea of Authenticx began.
So politics, public service, that's an interest as well?
Absolutely is. Yes. My career really post-graduate school started in the Family and Social Services Administration. And I got to cut my teeth in the legislative process. I was the legislative director for the administration and got to go over to the State House and testify and really learn about the policy side of healthcare, specifically in Medicaid, and saw the impact of policy on business as well as the healthcare consumer population. I got really interested in that, and then left state government and landed in business for the next 15, 18 years. I definitely see a world where I return to state government someday. I'm fascinated by it. I think it's really important, and it's been great in my career to start there, then to go see the policies that are created in action with boots on the ground, and then take that and maybe go back someday.
Yeah, well, interesting. Be interested in your take, maybe your 50,000 foot view. Healthcare, insurance, it's such a complex, complicated, controversial, issue that's out there all the time. What's your take on kind of the landscape right now? Where do you see things going? Politics obviously play into it as well, but where do you see the healthcare marketplace, the system going?
Yeah, I mean, it's really unfortunate that we live in a country where we have the best medicine, the most innovative science, and the best therapies and technology, but our health outcomes and the cost of care is higher than any other developed country in the world. So our costs are higher and our outcomes are lower. And that just makes no sense.
Yeah.
And yet, It's because we built our system this way. It's overly complex, and the incentives between the various pillars within the healthcare industry are not aligned. Mm-hmm. Payers, providers, pharmaceutical, the incentives that run their businesses are not aligned. I believe that policy world regulators have an opportunity to work with industry leaders to better align incentives across the ecosystem so that we can create together a shared, simpler process for consumers. Mm-hmm. I know from studying 300 million customer conversations across healthcare that the number one driver of customers missing a therapy or missing an appointment or not following up on their healthcare is not because of a clinical reason. It's because of the navigation complexity of our healthcare system. It's an affordability issue. It's a complexity issue. We have to solve that if we want to get to the outcomes we're looking for.
So look, going forward, I know you have an interest in continuing to be connected, to invest in the tech ecosystem, if you will, in Indiana, right? How do you envision that? Because I think, and a great example is, Scott Dorsey and the team at what was ExactTarget, sold to Salesforce, and Scott and several others have continued to invest so much financially, but also time and talent into the ecosystem. You'd like to do, it sounds like, something similar.
Yes, I mean, Scott and High Alpha have invested in Authenticx, as have other venture capital firms in Indiana. And I have a dream to continue that tradition of hope to be successful enough to be able to invest in Indiana companies, and particularly Indiana companies that need capital, have a great idea, and I have a particular interest in supporting underserved founders, and also in the space of healthcare and AI.
Yeah. Where do you see Authenticx as you look going forward, Amy? Say maybe 5 to 10 years out on the horizon. Where would you like to be?
Yeah, we intend to be a $100 million company in a couple years, and then sky's the limit from a revenue perspective. How we get there, we really see a convergence of conversation AI, traditional CRMs or customer relationship management systems, like the one that Salesforce has, like the one that others have. And we see a convergence of these technologies, and we are working heavily on our strategic partnerships and expect to have a wider footprint within the industry. And there's a lot of areas within healthcare we haven't even touched yet: telehealth, clinical trial space. And so we have our eyes on that horizon as well.
Well, Amy Brown, your talent, your passion for what you do and for the state of Indiana are very obvious. And we're very fortunate to have you in the community. Appreciate you taking the time, and wish you nothing but good luck going forward.
Thank you so much, Gary. It's been great.
All right. And thank you for joining us on this edition of the Business and Beyond podcast presented by PNC, where weekly conversation with achievers in business, sports, entertainment, and beyond. And you can download all of our episodes and get Indiana business news 24/7. All you have to do is go to InsideIndianaBusiness.com. I'm Gary Dick. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.
Curious about what's shaping law in Indiana? From court reforms and NIL rights to mental health courts and energy commissions, the Indiana Lawyer Podcast breaks down the biggest legal issues of our time. I'm your host, reporter Maura Johnson. Join me every other week for your insider guide to what matters in law and why it impacts you. Subscribe now in your favorite podcast app or at ibjpodcasts.com.
Thanks for listening to this IBJ Media podcast. You're probably going to remember this ad. Do you know why? Podcast advertising works. 85% of listeners recalled hearing an ad during a podcast, and 70% of podcast listeners have acted after hearing an ad. So whether you're looking to be heard across the entire IBJ Media podcast network, sponsor one of our shows, or just start with a 30-second ad, IBJ Media can help. Contact advertise at ibj.com to learn more.